Hi, I'm Matt Collins. I'd like to welcome you to Bob Weber Auto Mart on Douglas Avenue here in Racine, across from Douglas Park. We specialize in 1-year-old, low mileage, almost new cars. And if you'd like to stop by and see them, or see them on our website, bobweberautomart.com, we could save you between $5,000 and $10,000 on your next almost new car purchase.
I'm Michael Burke, and this is Money Talks. Hi, so I am starting the second part of my talk with Aina Vilumsons, Executive Director of the Wisconsin Procurement Institute, or WPI. If you missed the first part, I would strongly suggest go back and watch it before you watch part two. So we left off, we were talking about the sort of relative compliance burdens, and you called it infrastructure. So what does a small company typically, I don't know, a company of 30 people or something like that, do they typically need an extra person to have a government contract? Or at what stage do you need extra people? What is a large company like maybe Twin Disc or CNH, how many people do they have additional just because they're doing business with the government?
It depends. That's my political answer, right? It depends. Depends on if you're selling a commercial item like tables or chairs, or if you're producing something in manufacturing, or doing R&D. It depends on what you're doing. Construction, for example, if you're manufacturing parts, your quality is going to have an extra burden. Your contracting will have maybe a part of a person as far as your billings, which are different, your compliance, which is different.
Okay.
You'll have to have someone that's trained to do those things. So it depends. If it's tables and chairs and you have a contract where you, an online contract where you sell those, the burden is very different.
Yeah.
So it depends.
Lower, I assume, right?
But it's very important that the company knows what their burden is, and I should use a different word than burden, but what the responsibility is in order to comply and do a good job and meet the requirements of the government. They need to know that up front, and they need to know what resources it will take to comply.
Yeah.
So that they do what it should. Government's a great customer. You make them happy, you treat them as the best thing there is, they pay on time. You know, they're good customers.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good customer to have in a mix of other customers. So it's very important to look at it that way, I think.
Yeah, speaking of a mix of other customers, what have you seen out there regarding the percentage of business that companies will do with the government? Because I'm guessing you wouldn't want to do 80% of your business with the government, because if you lose that, you go down the tubes probably.
That is very correct from a general business standpoint. Never have one customer. Try
Right.
to have at least a handful. Businesses that have relied over the last couple years on defense work only are feeling it very much so. We're losing some of our supply chains, some of our suppliers, because there was too much reliance on the government customer. It's always a good idea to have a blend,
Yeah.
whatever that may be.
Yeah.
Anytime a market goes softer, you want to have something else that will
Sure.
counteract that, so that your business stays on the right path.
Sure, and as you say, that's a good rule in business anyway,
Just in
regardless. We talked a minute ago about the responsibilities that come with doing government business. I'm guessing there are cases where you're talking with a company, small or whatever it might be, and they're at some point they say, I don't think I can do all that, and they don't take the contract, right?
And then that's a good decision.
Uh-huh.
It's a good decision to make that before you get the contract, not after you get the contract.
Yeah, yeah. And those are things that WPI, I'm sure, can thoroughly discuss with people.
That's what we work with, correct.
Yeah. You brought some other numbers and examples. Why don't you throw out some more numbers at this point of, for example, you mentioned how much business Racine County does, and we talked a little about Wisconsin, but what are some of the main buyers of
Goods and services from
goods
Wisconsin?
and services. Yeah.
Defense Department is still number one. It has been since our roots with Les Aspin when he was congressman here. And it continues to stay that for a number of reasons. One is our largest contractor in the state, Oshkosh Corporation.
Okay.
Oshkosh produces vehicles. They also, Pierce, that does the fire trucks, is part of the Oshkosh family of businesses. So that's a very dominant producer. Someone who's not in these numbers is Marinette Marine Corporation out of Marinette, Wisconsin. Marinette it produces ships, mostly naval right now, but also others, NOAA, some research ships and that type of
NOAA, I
thing.
assume you mean the National Oceanic and
Yes.
Atmospheric Administration.
Yes.
That NOAA.
Yes, that
not,
NOAA.
Not the one from the Ark.
That is correct. So a lot of their work is heavy Navy right now. With the USS Milwaukee that people may have been reading about in the newspaper that's being talked about is produced in Marinette.
Do you know if we have any suppliers from our area for either
I do
Oshkosh?
not. I do not.
That's okay.
I think you do. With the heavy manufacturing base in Racine, I am 99% sure that there is participation in those contracts.
So one thing you've made clear is that there are two ways to do business. One is to be the actual direct supplier, and the other is to be in the supply chain. What kinds of services does WPI provide? Why don't you talk about that a little bit? When you sit down with somebody and small company and says, I make good parts, how does the process start?
We sit down, we talk to them in general business terms. Why do they want to look at the government to be a customer? What are their current customers? Are they in good shape? Are they financially sound? Is there growth? Are they having any issues? Just general business terms. Then we talk to them, we take a look at who could be their customer. How good a customer could the government be to them based on some basic research? Let's say they're selling chairs, just for an example, and we tell them there's probably 150 other people selling chairs. Can you be competitive? Let's take a look at what's being sold now at what prices. Let's analyze the market space before you take the future steps in.
So you have that kind of inventory or database where
Yes,
you
we
can
do.
see what others are selling chairs
Yes, we
for,
do.
and they can say, I
Yes,
could
we
meet
do.
that or I couldn't.
And I think going into this with full knowledge is what's very important. Like with any customer or any business decision, there is an investment in this. Whether it's if someone hires somebody to do this for you, or if you spend your own time and energy on it, there's an investment of time. If you don't choose the government, you could choose somebody else to work for. So once the decision is kind of determined that it's a pretty good decision based on some preliminary work, we work with the company to register as a potential contractor.
Okay.
Very simple process. We look at the small business programs that the government has through the Small Business Administration. The government has a preference in contracting with small businesses. 23% of all federal procurement dollars should be going to small business.
23%,
23%.
about a quarter. Okay.
Correct. Of that 23%, there's 5% for women, 5% for socially disadvantaged businesses, 3% for hub zone located businesses, which is historically underutilized zones. So there's a small piece of Racine that falls into that category. Service disabled veterans, there's a set aside piece, and I think I've got all four of them. So for a business, they need to look at too how they fit into the competition there. Because small businesses, certain types of contracts are only competed against small against small.
Oh.
Okay, so there's definite understanding the rules gives a business the edge on going after some of this work.
Yeah. So let's say they get to that point. They're interested. They think they can be competitive on price. But if they want to sell tables, there are 150 others already doing. How much churn is there? How much real opening or opportunity is there? Or do they just have to beat someone else on price?
Depends. Again, depends. Sales is very important. I think it's a topic that's not discussed much when we're talking about the government marketplace. People assume it's just you bid and you're done. Sales and marketing are very critical. If you're the one that knows that the VA hospital is going to be putting up a new wing and you start learning what the needs are and that your tables might fit and you've got the right size, or you can work with the architect to say this is how we should do it, and I can come up with a configuration for you that will save you money and be a good fit. That's what will make you stand apart from your competitors.
And who, in that example, is the company working with? An architect or someone
it could
with
be an
the government?
architect. It could be directly with the government. It's very important for small businesses to get involved in education and in meeting with other suppliers and other contractors, and with buying prime contractors and agencies. They have to get out there. They have to be part of the pool. They can't sit at home and just do it on the website. That works sometimes, but not all the time.
So the government has purchasing people who,
Correct.
at some point, they're having conversations with.
Correct.
And obviously, your WPI's role, I'm sure, is to make those things happen, or at least guide them to the right people and things
Correct.
like that.
For example, in March, we're working with our counterparts in Illinois and the Society of American Military Engineers to do a large construction conference in Northbrook, just over the border. Wisconsin companies are heavy
Excuse me, is that for a
participants
particular project or just for
in
construction
general, construction and
Okay.
related trades, environmental. The buyers from the Corps of Engineers, the VA, EPA, all come to this conference to meet with small businesses. It's a very easy way for a small business to start those dialogues.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. How does, I know WPI has a way to sort of calculate its own effectiveness. Why don't you talk about that a little bit, how you issue reports that say there was $3.2 billion worth of business done in Wisconsin, and we think we were responsible for a certain percentage. What was a recent example of that, and how do you calculate that?
Well, there's two ways we look at it. One is we look at the calculation of awards won to people we worked with. There we're about 10%, 9 to 10% range, as far as people that have, or companies that have given us credit for helping them get those awards.
You're saying 9 to 10% of the
total
pie of business?
in Wisconsin.
And they're saying we got that?
We help them get that.
Yeah, okay.
The other is that we help businesses. For example, you asked how we work with the businesses. After, we also provide a bid matching service.
What does that mean?
That means that we can set up so that a company can find out each day what opportunities exist for them in the government marketplace.
Really?
They get an email, the search is done at night. It's a free service to Wisconsin businesses.
Wow.
We hold about 70 workshops, conferences every year. We teach everything from how to read the regulations and understand them to how to get registered. Today we're doing a session on how a service-disabled veteran-owned business can get registered to work with the government. That doesn't result in a direct contract, but that's supporting the contracting community here in Wisconsin.
And your services are free?
Free. Our services are free. The funding from Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation and the DOD covers all our activities.
Well, why don't we end with ways that potentially interested business in our area could sit down with you or your group and mention any upcoming events.
We work out of the Launchbox facility here in downtown Racine.
141 Main
140,
Street.
yep.
I meant to repeat
Yep.
that. It's
And
the state
we're-
and main building.
It's a great place for any small business, whether they meet with us or not, to come take a look at it, and it's a great place to work. We'll meet, or we'll go to their facilities. We like to do site visits.
Oh, yeah.
We'll,
Okay.
It's
You'll do it that
not
way,
just
too?
come and let's sit at a desk.
Okay. All right.
We'll go out and work with
Okay.
them and see what their capabilities are from our eyes.
Okay.
We're scheduling workshops every month at Launchbox, different topics. The first one we have is January, I need my glasses,
Okay.
January 28th, and it's going to, from 10 to noon, and it will discuss women-owned business certification and opportunities.
Okay.
The next one we have is scheduled for February 19th, and that's going to address how to sell to the Veterans Administration.
Okay.
So a lot of purchasing is done out of the VA in Milwaukee. That includes North Chicago, just over the border here, the Toma Hospital, the Upper Peninsula, Iron Mountain has a hospital, all the clinics, a lot of dollars. I believe it's $17 billion are allocated to the VA system.
Okay.
So a lot of veterans coming back. There's
Okay.
there's a good business
right.
opportunity.
Well, we have to end it there. Aina Vilumsons from the Wisconsin Procurement Institute. Thanks for being on Money
Thank you.
Talks. I'm hoping people learned something. I know I did. Thanks for watching. Thanks to my producer, Greg Schaefer. And please check the show out again.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Matt Collins. I'd like to welcome you to Bob Weber Auto Mart on Douglas Avenue here in Racine, across from Douglas Park. We specialize in 1-year-old, low mileage, almost new cars. And if you'd like to stop by and see them, or see them on our website, bobweberautomart.com, we could save you between $5,000 and $10,000 on your next almost new car purchase.